Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 139. I'm your host, Perrysburg resident Kim Newlove. The Perrysburg Podcast is a resource for Perrysburg residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. Our website is perrysburgpodcast.com. Today, we're talking about Revitalize Perrysburg Phase 2. Phase 2 is already underway. I've seen trees cut down, there's cones downtown. And if you're not familiar with the part of Perrysburg that I'm referring to, it is Louisiana Avenue in historic downtown Perrysburg. It's the area between the railroad tracks and the statue. Phase 2 is between the railroad tracks, which is 3rd Street, and the statue of Commodore Perry on Front Street. The east side will get worked on first, and the west side will go second. If you're not familiar with the east and west here in historic downtown Perrysburg, the east side has Lupita's, and the west side has the old Perrysburg Messenger Journal newspaper building. Now, according to revitalizeperrysburg.com, the project will do a number of things. It will preserve our history, but it will improve accessibility, create beautiful public spaces, modernize infrastructure like roads and lights, and enhance the aesthetics of historic downtown Perrysburg, the look of historic downtown Perrysburg. Now, I am paraphrasing from the website because I'm trying to set the stage for today's conversation with my 3 guests. I have Zoe from the Perrysburg Chamber of Commerce, Tom from the City of Perrysburg's Engineering Division, and Casey, who is the City of Perrysburg's new Public Information Officer. Marie Dunn left the office in 2025, and now we have Casey Kenworthy. During our conversation, we talk about Phase 1, Phase 2, lane closures, the Memorial Day Parade, the Farmers Market, the Homecoming Parade, outdoor seating at restaurants, shout-outs to all the folks behind the scenes doing the work, and how to find updates about the project through a live video feed, 2 websites, and some social media channels. If you live in Perrysburg or you plan to visit between March and November 2026, you need to listen to this conversation. Without further ado, let's hear from Zoe, Tom, and Casey. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast. We're going to start with some introductions. Zoe, could you go first, please?
Yeah, my name's Zoe Williams. I work for the Perrysburg Chamber of Commerce. I am their Director of Marketing.
Thanks for being with us today. And Tom, you're next.
Hi, my name's Tom Haar. I work for the City of Perrysburg as a staff engineer in the engineering division. I'll be the project manager on the downtown revitalization project for the city.
Thanks, Tom. And over to you, Casey.
Yeah, I'm Casey Kenworthy, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Perrysburg. And I'll be one of the people that will be communicating and covering the downtown project as the construction's going on.
Thanks to all of you for being here. I really appreciate it. And Casey organized everybody to be here in the same room, so we are recording from the Municipal Building in beautiful historic downtown Perrysburg. All right, let's get started. Casey, when did this revitalization project start? I know there was a Phase 1, now we're on Phase 2. When did this all get started?
It initially started with Phase 1. That actually started just before I arrived at Perrysburg and took on the PIO job role. PIO is short for Public Information Officer. So I came in around August of last year. I believe the project had already been going for several months by that point. So for me, it was like baptism by fire, trying to get caught up on everything that had been done so far. But even prior to that, there was a 2019 study that was done before any thoughts of construction occurred that focused on, okay, well, if we did this kind of a revitalization for downtown Perrysburg, what are some things that we should consider? And that's what the study looked at. There were several findings in there that we're taking and incorporating into Phase 2, which is getting ready to start within the next couple of weeks.
Anything to add, Tom?
Just that Phase 1 was the section between the railroad tracks in Indiana. So between the library and Perry's Landing, we did planter boxes, new sidewalk, new signal at Indiana, Louisiana, and planted the perennial shrubs and trees last fall. We got some new signs going in here shortly. Would ask that nobody back into the parking spots in the downtown. We've had a couple trucks back into the planters
Already?
already. We've got 2 planters to fix this spring because people backed into them. It's not meant for back-in parking. We're going to actually put signs up. I met with the Department of Public Service this morning. They're laying it out for OOPS, trying to make sure that the utility marking guys have a target so they can mark a location for the water, gas, electric lines underground instead of the entire sidewalk. We want as little paint on the new work as possible, but I think everybody in town's seen the OOPS flags with the fiber companies coming through and the paint. So we just don't want to mark up the new stuff as little as we possibly can.
With that talking point, I do drive a truck and I back in all the time, so you're breaking my heart a little bit, but I will follow the law. I will follow that recommendation. Thank you for telling me that it's been a problem. Anybody can have an accident, so prevention is key.
And you don't know you're getting close until you actually bump into it if you're backing in, right?
All right, anything to add about when Revitalize Perrysburg Phase 1 started? Zoe, were you here for that?
I was. So I've been at the chamber. This is going to be my 4th year at the chamber. So I've been here since talks of construction were underway for the last 4 years. It's kind of on and off, but they finally were like, okay, we're going to do this. So at the chamber, we've been kind of the downtown liaison through the construction so far. So Tim said he's the executive director. My boss, I like to say. We kind of go communicate with the businesses like, hey, this is going to be happening. Here are the dates. What can we do to support you? So my job is keeping the businesses happy during construction because I'm not a business owner, but I do know that it definitely is going to cause some problems once we head the construction downtown. So we're using social media and word of mouth to tell people like, hey, these businesses are still going to be open through construction. Please shop, please support, because right now they need you more than ever. By working at the chamber, I've gotten to understand what it looks like to be a business owner, which has been great. Because the construction project is going to definitely take a toll on some things, but we're all in it together, and we've got Casey and Tom to help with all of that as well. So it's been good so far.
I appreciate the "we're all in this together" comment.
Yes.
I think at this point, what I'd like to do is acknowledge that there's going to be some pain as we go into Phase 2. And I think that the audience probably needs to know that as we record this, it is March 9th, 2026, and this does have an end to it. Casey, when will Phase 2 wrap up?
Right now, Phase 2 is anticipated to be completed by fall time of this year. So I believe the month that was chosen is November. So that's the target goal. Tom can provide a little bit more detail on, what it's going to take to get to that point. But we're trying to let everybody know this is going to be painful this year, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's here in the fall time.
Tom, would you like to add anything or maybe assign a date to it? Maybe is there a target date?
The target date would be November 1st, but it is a target, and weather's going to play a role. Mm-hmm. How construction goes is going to play a role. From a construction standpoint, I will say that we do have weekly meetings between the chamber and the city to discuss how the construction impacts the businesses, what we can do on the construction side to lessen the impact. We've been talking to the contractors about how to help manage deliveries to the restaurants just so they can get food, drinks, whatnot delivered, because we are closing the alleys. They're going to have to hand truck some stuff across a construction zone, so the contractor's got to work with them to get across. They got to be understanding that it won't be pull up to the back door and unload the truck for the summer. With the farmers market, we have a solid plan going into place that will be able to put the farmers market between 3rd Street and Front Street. Again, with the booths and the temporary tents, we'll have the food trucks on 3rd Street. So there's going to be an impact, but we're trying to keep it as normal as we can during construction for everybody.
That's a fair statement. Construction is unpredictable. Whenever we have construction on our own homes, on our own streets, we often experience delays. So anybody listening to this can recognize we've experienced it ourselves. So I appreciate you guys giving a date. November 1st sounds like a good date, but Tom brought up a good point. During that time between March and November, we're going to have the farmers market. There's going to be the homecoming festival. There's going to be a Memorial Day parade. So does anybody want to talk about any of those events and how this Revitalize Perrysburg Phase 2 is going to affect any of those.
I guess I can touch on it a little bit. The Memorial Day parade, it's kind of like we don't know exactly what's going to happen until construction starts, but we know it'll still happen. It'll still be similar to how it has been in previous years. Same with Farmers Market and any other little summer events we have going on. For the Farmers Market, like Tom was saying, we're going to have it down, what road's all right?
3rd Street, Front Street.
3rd Street, Front Street. So it'll rotate as construction goes. So let's say like the east side is getting construction first, so it'll be on the west side. And then that'll move as construction starts making its way around. And if we need to, we'll pull it down to the, I'm so bad at the roads down here. What's
2nd Street, maybe?
on the other side.
Oh, the other
2nd
side of the
Street.
tracks.
Yeah, the other side of the tracks. So it's basically just we're going to figure it out as time moves on. And as long as construction goes how it should go and there's no giant issues, it'll be great. And we've already been talking with the vendors, and a lot of them are like, oh, we don't care. Like, we still want to come. So it's been great. But everything's kind of just up in the air, but we know it's going to happen. The farmers market's not going anywhere. The Memorial Day parade's not going anywhere. It's just a matter of how, as time moves on, we'll be able to know more clear and concise what details to give everybody.
Zoe, it reminds me of water and how it follows the path of least resistance. If there's construction on one side of the street, then people can stand on the other side of the street, right? And if there is not space available for vendors for the farmers market or the homecoming festival, then it'll just be rerouted to 2nd Street, 3rd Street, a different part of Louisiana Avenue, et cetera. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and a lot of people are super flexible with stuff like that. They're like, oh, we don't care how it happens. We just want it to happen. Like, we want all of our things in Perrysburg to stay the same. And we're like, oh, yeah, we get that. We want that to happen. So we're with everybody. Like I said, we're all in this together. The goal is to be better together and to just keep pushing through so that we can have a downtown that's inclusive for everybody. Because right now it's not very ADA compliant. A lot of families with kids with disabilities or people with disabilities, elderly, pregnant people, they can't get into buildings. They can't enjoy events. So
People with strollers,
yes,
too.
yeah, so they won't be able to enjoy the events now. I mean, maybe they are right now, but it'll be more accessible for everybody to make downtown and Perrysburg more welcoming for everybody. So it'll be great.
Yeah, it can be really hard to get into a door when the entrance is not ADA
Yes.
accessible. Yeah. Tom, anything to add to any of those events? What's going to happen with the Memorial Day parade, the farmers market, the homecoming festival, any of that? You want to comment on anything?
I know they're going to happen. I count on the Thursday meetings we have every week. I'm a construction guy, so I need people like Zoe, Tim, and Casey to remind me of what maybe the public sees. It's like I try to explain a lot of construction things to my wife, and she has to say, listen, I don't know what you're talking about. And I expect people are going to have the same thing this summer, so I'm going to need the businesses' help when they come out and start asking questions. If I answer it in a way that sounds too much construction talk and not plain English, please tell me, because I'm happy to explain it, and I probably don't realize that I'm not explaining it well enough.
I get what you mean. I'm a pharmacist by training, and there's this thing called layman's terms. People don't want to hear the clinical presentation of something. They want to hear it in their own terms. So I get it. Thank you for saying that. And good for your wife for pointing out when you're not doing it the way
I
that
do try to
she
explain it to
understands.
her. I talk with a lot of her about what's going on downtown so she can say, wait a minute, what does that mean? So I can think about it ahead of time.
Yeah, I think the more we talk about it, the more the city refines their message, the chamber refines their message, the engineers get used to talking to people in the way that they need to hear it. Yeah, and public information officer, I'm sure you get a lot of feedback too. Did you want to comment on anything that hasn't already been said about the Memorial Day parade, farmers market, homecoming festival, anything?
Yeah, so there's actually, because we're in the 250th year of America, Perrysburg actually has a committee that it's put together to do 250th events activities. And I'm happy to say that there's several of them that are planned to be done both in downtown Perrysburg and Levis Commons. So even for those kinds of events, we're working very closely with, Tom, his engineering team, working closely with Zoe, Tim Anstead over at the Chamber to help make those happen too. This is the 250th celebration of America. We're not just going to say, well, we'll skip it this year because we got a construction project. We'll make it work. We'll find a way to make it work.
It's kind of like with anything else. If you want it to happen badly enough, you'll make it happen.
That's right.
Let's talk about what phase 2 is going to look like. At this time, I think we all know what Perrysburg looks like downtown. But for anybody listening to this who really hasn't been paying attention, I know that there is the revitalizeperrysburg.com website, and there are drawings on it. And I was looking at some of them today, and just from a resident's perspective, what I see is that the road's going to stay where it is, the buildings are going to stay where they are, but then everything really between the road and the buildings is going to change. So, Tom, let's go to you. What can you tell me about what's going to change?
The changes are, I hesitate to say cosmetic, because they're more than cosmetic. Right now, between the buildings and the road, you have sidewalk. We do have brick pavers along the edge of the road behind the curb to help just offset visually where the road is compared to the sidewalks. We have planters that have 6-inch tall curbs on them to keep the plants and the mulch and the trees inside the planter boxes. The buildings right now, some buildings have steps up into the store or business. Some buildings are fairly flush with the sidewalk, so you could easily roll right up there with a stroller, wheelchair, walker type thing. The point of the project is to make the access at the front of the buildings ADA compliant. So that'll involve raising sidewalks in some spots to match door thresholds so that you're rolling on a almost level surface from the sidewalk to into the shop. There are going to be some shops where we have to build ramps, and the ramp will have a decorative wall on the outside, and you'll be able to go up the ramp or up a step to get into the building. The planters, we're changing the planters from a planter that's just got a 6-inch curb around it to a planter that's a raised planter that's going to be probably, give or take, 18 inches off of the sidewalk. On top of the new planters, you'll have a stone slab, which will work great for a bench. So it changes, yes, but really it's still planters, sidewalk, and access at the buildings. We're also adding a bigger field of brick pavers off the back of the curb up to the edge of the sidewalk.
I heard the sidewalks are going to be wider. Can you talk about that?
So the goal is to create a 10-foot sidewalk down from one end of the job to the other, which everywhere there's one building that is a couple of feet higher than the existing sidewalk. So there's going to be one spot where it narrows down to 8 feet. But other than that, it's going to be a 10-foot wide sidewalk from 3rd Street to Front Street. So everybody's going to be, should help foot traffic during the market, parades, all that, right? The goal is to have the booths and the tents for the market in between the planters, so they're not on my sidewalk. So you got a 10-foot sidewalk. People can get to the booth, get by. I know now it can be kind of crowded during the markets days.
So what you're proposing is that on the brick, which is right next to the road, that's where the farmers market vendors will be lining up?
That's the way I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how it is now. It's
not really changing. Yeah.
Now there's going to be bricks under part of where they're going to
There's
be.
going to be brick pavers under it instead of sidewalk, right? That's probably the biggest change, but it's cosmetic.
Okay. Now, thinking about some of the things that are in the walkway areas now or near where the trees are planted, there are some, I forget what they're called, but Historic Perrysburg Inc. has these podiums that have pictures of what used to be there 100 years ago, right? Do we know yet what's going to go there? Will they be putting in new ones, or don't we know yet?
Department of Service salvaged all those History Happens Here signs. We got to get through construction. We haven't. They're due to be updated. I don't think there's a plan in place to say what that's going to be.
Thank you for talking about that. I'm also thinking about other things that are in the sidewalk area or between the buildings and the road. I have seen seating out there. I think that Swig had some sort of a railing or something in front of their restaurant, and then Stella's, when it used to be a restaurant, used to have outdoor seating. Zingo's has some outdoor seating. Perry's Burgers has some outdoor seating. Tell me, how's that going to change?
So the way that that's going to work is for phase 2, the beginning of the phase 2 construction, those particular restaurants or just any businesses that have like outdoor seating or railings, those will have to be removed as part of the construction process. There's just no way to do the project without that happening. As far as, well, what about when the project is over with? If I'm not mistaken, the businesses are able to utilize the space that's there. There should be enough space left after phase 2 is over with where they can bring out new type of outdoor seating. It may be a different type of layout or it could be the exact same, but there's going to be an option to have that outdoor patio seating again, because we know a lot of the restaurants are in the smaller sized historic buildings. You can only fit so many people inside there. So there's still a thought of wanting to make sure these businesses are able to seat people outside, especially when it's nice out like today is.
Yes, it is nice. I've heard the motorcycles going by, and as a motorcyclist, that just is calling to me, like, get your bike out, Kim. Anyways, Tom, anything to add about the outdoor seating for the restaurants?
So for the restaurants, I know this year we're not probably going to allow any outdoor seating for the construction. Over the upcoming months and over the winter, I believe we permit that now for outdoor seating. So planning and zoning is reviewing the requirements for that, and they'll be reissuing permits for next year. I think there's going to be some effort to have a cohesive look for the outdoor seating furniture. That's probably as far as we're at right now, but it is coming back.
So it sounds like when the sidewalk area is under construction, no more outdoor seating, obviously, and then it won't be coming back until at least 2027, which is next year, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. If anybody wants to see an artist's rendering of what this is going to look like, because this is an audio podcast and, some people might want to see what it's supposed to look like when it's done, where do they go, Casey, to learn more?
Yeah, we've got 2 different locations where you can find information on this. So the first is on the city website. It's under a web page called Current Projects, and it's where you can find a list of all of the ongoing projects, construction projects happening in Perrysburg. And it even has a section for projects that have been completed recently. Right up at the very top, though, we have our Phase 2 revitalization project information. And they're in a Dropbox format, so you just click it, drops down, and all the information's right there for you to read. And a part of that information is concept art sketches that was provided to us of what the final outcome is going to look like. And so you can go through, they're just standard PNG, JPG images. And the other location that you can also find it at is over on the Revitalize Perrysburg website.
Since we've got somebody from the chamber here, did you want to add anything to that, Zoe?
Yeah, we, with the city, decided to come up with a way to communicate with people in Perrysburg and with the businesses of what construction is going to look like, what's happening with construction. So we made a website and social media. The website's revitalizeperrysburg.com, and you can go on there and actually learn, here's what's happening in this phase, here's what's happening here. And then we update it pretty regularly, like, hey, this is what's happening right now. There's images of the final renderings and what the completed side already looks like, what it used to look like, what it's supposed to look like, and what it does look like. So there's tons of information on the website. And then every week I try to post some kind of construction update on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, in the Perrysburg Facebook pages. But right now, since there's nothing happening at the moment, I haven't posted anything. But I did actually post last week an update saying like, hey, construction's starting again. We can't wait to get started. And here's more information.
Today is March 9th as we record this. When does it get started?
I believe March 23rd is the estimated start date. Is
So
that correct?
The contractor's start date for drainage and sidewalk removal is targets March 23rd. The tree removals will start on Wednesday, the 12th.
This week?
Yes. They reached out last week to let us know they were coming Wednesday the 11th, taking the 12th off so we don't interfere with the Irish Walk, I believe it's called, Zoe. And then coming back on Friday the 13th to take care of the rest of the trees.
I hope everything goes well. I'm not superstitious. So
No.
hopefully it'll go great.
The only other thing I want to say is during phase 1 on the Indiana to the railroad tracks, and we did have a live cam that had a live feed on the Revitalize Perrysburg website. I believe we're going to have a live feed for the next phase.
Yeah, it's still pointed at the phase 1 area. I saw it just today when I looked at the website, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You could just, see cars pulling in and out of parking spots and stuff. That's cool.
Yes. So I think we're going to try and mount 2 cameras, I thought, on the next phase in the 100, 200 block.
And then that live feed will be on revitalizeperrysburg.com?
Yes.
Okay. And Zoe, you talked about having Instagram pictures, Facebook pictures, and I know Casey likes to take pictures too. So this will be documented. So if you're finding this a month, 3 months, 9 months, 12 months after this podcast episode has aired, you can see all the chaos and the results from this phase 2 project. Seeing progress is really interesting. That's why I think we all like HGTV, because they take a crappy house and they turn it into a fully remodeled, awesome house. If you want to experience that transformation, check out all these great pictures from Zoe and Casey.
Absolutely. And if I can add to that too, communication is very important, not just to the city side, but also to the chamber too, through the Revitalize Perrysburg brand. So between the two of us, we're working very closely. We meet every Thursdays with Tom to go over the upcoming week construction that's going to be happening. And Zoe and I take that information and we put it out, communicate it on as many platforms as we can. And so I know from my end, it's kind of just me running the city social media channels. I try to answer questions when I see them as often as I can. And there's been a lot of great questions that have been asked so far leading up to the beginning of phase 2. And so I just want to reiterate, if you're on Facebook, if you're on X, Instagram, whatever your favorite social media platform is, come follow us, find us on there, City of Perrysburg, Revitalize Perrysburg. That'll be the easiest and quickest way you can get the information. But of course, if you want to go at your own pace, get that information at your own speed, you can always find it on the City of Perrysburg website and Revitalize Perrysburg's website.
Thank you. Tom, anything to add?
I do put out a weekly update internally for the city and the chamber, and then Casey will tweak it and use some of the pictures to post on the city website. So for the last year's project, phase 1, we probably have a year's worth of weekly or bi-weekly photos of progress on the website under the phase 1 tab.
Thank you for all the work that you and the city are doing for us. I know it's probably a thankless job at some points because people like to hate on construction, cones, barrels, workers every once in a while because we don't like that friction of trying to drive down or walk down a place that we're used to driving down or walking down and then experience no sidewalk there or you can't go there or whatever, or now you have to use the back entrance. So thank you from one Perrysburg resident to somebody who works for the city. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know I just thanked Tom for the important work that he did, but there's probably so many people who have gone into planning this and will go into executing this. Let's do some shout outs. Who needs thanks that is behind the scenes? Zoe, let's start with you.
So with the chamber, we have formed like a little committee for Revitalize Perrysburg, apart from the city. Sorry, Casey. We have Carrie Wellstein of Create Art Studio, Rory. I'm so sorry, Rory. I cannot remember your last name, but he owns Old Stable and Co. Norma Millen, she owns Nest. It's a little interior design store over. I think it's on River. Is it River Road? Do you know?
I don't know. And I was just going to say, I got to look that one up because I have not heard of it yet.
Yes, she's been great. And then we just got 2 new staff members at the chamber, Sally Moore and Lily Scott, and they've been helping with marketing and events as well. So all of us meet. We try to do once a month. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, and just talk about what we can do for the businesses. We fill them in on what construction looks like so that they can tell their friends down in downtown. So they've been great. I also have been super thankful of Casey and Tom and Joe and all the other people from the city that have educated me on construction. Because like you said, as a Perrysburg resident, it does get frustrating to drive through construction, but knowing the outcome of this construction project, that it's more than me. It's about everybody in the community. It's about being inclusive, ADA compliant, being a more welcoming downtown for all. I think knowing that is the heart of this construction project, it's changed my perspective, and I've learned a lot, like I said before, about what it is to be a business owner and all of the hardships with that, but also what it is like from a city perspective. You get all the people that have very strong opinions talking to you, and you have people who know nothing at all that's happening. So I'm very thankful for everybody at the city to for all their hard work and informing everybody of what's going on.
And how's your boss, Tim, doing with all this?
Oh, he's great. Like Casey was saying, it's the 250th anniversary of America. So we've got construction going on. We've got all these committees going on. And so we're really busy, but the construction project is the one positive, at least in my eyes, for both of us, because we get to communicate and learn more about the community and find different ways to make Perrysburg a better place and a place to visit, to stay and to move here, or whatever you're doing in Perrysburg. We want to make it more inviting for everybody. So we've been having fun.
Thank you for the shout outs. I appreciate that because as residents, we don't always know everybody that's behind the scenes. So thanks for giving some shout outs there. How about Tom at the engineer's office?
I'd like to give a shout out to the contractors and then the staff at the library. I'll start with B&J Concrete. They are the prime contractor for both projects, Phase 1 and Phase 2. They were a little bidder on both. They're going to pour all the concrete. They did pour all the concrete. They're going to set all the pavers. They're going to set all the modular blocks for the planners and really, do all the grading work for the project. They have a subcontractor for the electrical work for signals and outlets and light poles. FET is their electrical contractor. Malcheski's Landscape came in and did all the plantings, and we'll plant grass in Phase 1 this spring, and then we have a little bit of grass in Phase 2, but not nearly as much. On the paving side, Phase 1 was done by Henry Bergman Company, and then Phase 2 will be done right now. It's scheduled with Ebony Construction. Garcia Surveying did all the survey for B&J, and Griffin Striping out of Fremont did the pavement striping. Over at the library, I'd like to thank Richard, Gary, and Lloyd. Richard and Lloyd volunteer at the library in the historical section, and if I ever had a question about what was here, what was there, if we found something in the ground that we weren't quite sure, they usually had a picture from the past to help understand what we uncovered in the present. They were out taking pictures, and if we ever find anything interesting, I always make sure to go tell one of them because they document it pretty well.
We're talking about Richard Baranowski and Gary Franks?
Yes.
All right.
And Lloyd Swanson, I believe his last name is.
I'm not as familiar with Lloyd, but I know the other two gentlemen because they've been on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Yep, they're historians.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Any other shout outs?
No, that's all I've got.
Any shout out to your wife for putting up with you?
No, she's
Just kidding.
she's just stuck. That's all that is.
I'm going to put this on the podcast because you wouldn't know this by listening to us, but Tom's brother was my husband's best man at our wedding, and we've known each other for a while. So I'm teasing him because I know his wife, Patty.
Yes.
Shout out to Patty, just from me, Kim. All right. Thank you very much for the shout outs, Tom. On to Casey. Any shout outs or thank yous to the people behind the scenes?
Yeah, I know from my position specifically, I would really like to thank Revitalize Perrysburg for helping communicate this information. I mentioned previously, I'm kind of a one-man band when it comes to social media channels. I don't just run the cities, I also help run the fire division, police division, and I also assist with Mayor Weber's social media as well. So lots of social media to manage. So it's always great to have an additional voice communicating this information out alongside me. I also want to thank our city administrator, Joe Fawcett, as well as our deputy city administrator, Patrick Jones. They've actually been every single Thursday meeting that we go to help coordinate. They're there. And a lot of times they'll have to make key decisions when it comes to construction decisions, or if we just reach a point where it's like, what are we going to do here? How's that going to work? Between Joe and Pat, there's always an answer. And so I think without them, this process would be a lot more confusing.
Decisive leaders are very important. It sounds like you have a couple there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I also want to give a shout out to our planning and zoning director, Brody. He has been working very closely with the chamber and communicating with the downtown businesses, trying to give them an idea of, answering their planning and zoning questions. So when Phase 2 is over with, am I going to be able to do this? Or before this kicks off, are we going to be able to do this? And he's always patient. If you've ever had the chance to have a conversation with Brody before, he's very calm, very chill to talk to. And he's another person where it's like you walk away from a conversation with him feeling comfortable, like you've got all the solid answers you need.
I think Brody rolled up to my house one day after I had put in a pergola in my backyard, and he told me that I didn't have a permit for the concrete pad underneath it. So he did a great job being tactful. Yes, I have had a conversation. Yes, he's a very calm man.
Yes, and he has those difficult conversations all the time. And I've watched him do it a few times, and he does it masterfully, just calmly communicating the information and then helping them too. So, yeah, you're technically in the wrong here, but here's what we can do to fix that. So he wants you to succeed.
Yeah, he didn't make me feel like I was in trouble, even though I probably would have been had I not gotten the paperwork filed after that with the appropriate fee. So yes, thank you for the shout out for Brody. Any other shout outs, Casey, before we move on?
I collectively would like to give a huge shout out to just the Tom's construction team that is managing this whole thing. Where I lived previously, there really wasn't a rhyme or a reason to construction that was going on locally. It was more of we have 6 areas we're going to be working on. Let's all rip it apart at once, and then let's only focus on one spot at a given time throughout the whole year. Tom and his team have carefully thought this out and really said, how can we pull this project off, but also making it as comfortably as possible that we can make it for businesses and residents. And I'm impressed. It was during phase 1, I think I said it during my first Thursday meeting, which was, wow, I don't know if I've seen this kind of construction planning and organization before. So thank you, Tom.
Shout out to the man in the room. All right,
That's
Tom.
right.
Now, on that topic, I'm just going to do a little sidebar here real quick. Yeah, I don't know if we've really talked about how, yes, this is going to be construction from the railroad tracks on North to Front Street, but then only one side of the street will be affected at first. Would you like to talk about how that was an intentional choice?
Yeah, so the goal right now is to work on the east side of the road first. We have our pre-con on Thursday with the contractor, so we'll hopefully get a better idea of a day-to-day schedule then, but they'll be removing the sidewalk and installing temporary stone so that we have access to all the businesses on the east side. And then they'll start with some drainage, putting in new catch basins and pipe and whatnot. Once they pour the concrete, build the planters, build the sloped walks, get all the sidewalk in, brick pavers down, curbs, backfill, a little bit of paving, we're going to flip to the west side and just start the process over again. So tear all the sidewalk out, get stone into temporary access to the buildings, and then start with, building planters, building sloped walks, getting sidewalk poured, getting brick pavers in, curb and gutter, pavement. And then at the end of the job, we'll mill the road off for one final surface course of asphalt, restripe. The signal poles will go up. Those are on probably a 6 or 9 month lead time just from a manufacturing standpoint. The shop drawings have come through. We've done our first review on the shop drawings. We're expecting the shop drawings to come back here in a week or so. After they're approved, it'll take 6 to 9 months to get the signal poles, light poles delivered, and they'll go up in the fall. The plantings will happen in the planters in the fall. Ideally, everything's wrapped up, new signs, whatnot, early November. That's the goal. It's a lot of work.
That's a very specific plan, and I can tell it's well thought out. And it does also sound like the finish line, if there could be, like if this was a race, with the checkered flag and all that, then once those light poles go up and signal poles, that's the finish line, right? That sounds like it.
It pretty close. It'll all hinge on when the poles are delivered. I know on phase 1, the signal poles, they came in, the original delivery date was October, late October. They didn't end up coming in until early December, give or take. They went up pretty quick. The new lights went up pretty quick. We got everything going before Christmas. They're out there again this week working on push buttons, getting the rest of those put in. The new street lights, the material won't arrive on phase 1 until mid-May. So once that's here, we'll get those put up. I'm hoping we avoid some of those material delays on phase 2.
Would you say you've learned some things from doing phase 1 before doing phase 2?
We're making a handful of changes to the actual where conduits go, where pull boxes go, where some of the work goes. I do know that we're fortunate that we can open the road. All the parking is open on phase one, even without the new street lights. And I anticipate even if something goes awry on phase two, we're going to be in that same spot where it's open, people can use it, you can park. Maybe we got to come back and plant something. Maybe we got to come back and do a signal pole or a light pole or something, but it'll be functional and open to the public is what we're looking for.
I appreciate that. I think you know how much the public doesn't like construction, and you want to deliver as close to on time as possible. Yeah, and it sounds like there are some residual things from phase one that are remaining. So it sounds like the function of the parking spaces is not affected by the things that you're talking about, correct?
Yes, we're able to, the parking on phase one is open, has been open since probably Thanksgiving last year. I'd have to go back and look at the exact date. People have been able to use the sidewalks since probably October, if not September of last year. So as things get completed, we open them up to traffic, foot traffic, car traffic. So we do want to open it incrementally, not wait to the very end to open everything at once.
Okay. You mentioned car traffic. It got me thinking, how much road closure are we going to see when phase two starts?
That's a good question. So when phase two starts in earnest, the plan is to close northbound Louisiana from the railroad tracks to Front Street for the construction on the east side. So traffic will be maintained on the southbound lane, and you'll have only southbound traffic on Louisiana from Front Street to the railroad tracks. So you'll be able to turn on off of Front Street, drive to the railroad tracks. You'll have to access either Huntington, you'll have to access from 2nd Street, or you have to go around the block to 2nd Street for Huntington because that's where their drive's at. But then Waterford, you'll have to come southbound Louisiana and turn left into Waterford Bank. The alleys will be closed on the east side of the road once we put traffic up to start this construction on the east side. So you'll still have to come in southbound. We're making room for delivery trucks to park inside the zone so they can hand cart food and whatnot to the businesses. For the market days, when we're working on the east side, the booths will be set up on the sidewalk on the west side and in the parking stalls on the west side, so that foot traffic will walk down the sidewalk up Louisiana to see all the booths, trying to make it a circular path, trying to help push traffic towards the shops on the west side during the east side's construction.
Did you just say that there's going to basically be double the vendors on the west side in the parking spaces and on the sidewalks?
Yes, all the vendors will be on the west side during the east side construction. That's the plan.
Oh,
and then, so every Thursday at 2 o'clock, we're going to close Louisiana until 8 o'clock for the farmers market.
No southbound traffic will be allowed.
No southbound traffic.
Okay. No. So it sounds like there's going to be some construction headaches. How can people find out about this, the traffic patterns ahead of time so they can kind of plan their commute or their errands?
It'll be, Casey's going to push it out on the Facebook posts, Instagram, X, and then we'll have updates on the city website, which Zoe will make sure we get on the Revitalize Perrysburg website.
Thank you for saying that. I am one of those people who often doesn't plan ahead and finds themselves stuck in traffic. We have the opportunity as residents to be very aware that this is going to happen and try to plan. Any tips for residents to plan their drive so that they can avoid construction? Casey.
Definitely stay tuned to the updates that we put out on social media and have on the website. Those are usually done to give you at least a week's notice. So if we're talking this week, we have our third week, Tom, Zoe, myself, we have the Thursday meetings. Tom provides us the updates for what's to come the following week. So you're always going to have at least a week's notice of what kind of work is going to be going on. If there's any changes to the construction plan, those are communicated during that time as well. I would say if you're a motorist that's used to driving down Louisiana, it's going to be pretty different, just like how Tom described. But you can still access everything there. But to your point, Kim, if driving through construction if you're the type of person where it gives you anxiety, I get it, I totally get it. It would be helpful to maybe pay closer attention to the updates that we're putting out and then maybe say, okay, well, how can I plan my commute a little bit differently tomorrow, or from this date to this date while they're doing that specific portion of construction work.
I'm not the only person. We're going to have to put some thought into it. It's temporary. But again, podcast episodes like this will help people start thinking ahead. Also, hopefully, I'm planting the seed that we got to remember we're going to get an awesome revitalized downtown out of this. So I got to be on Team Revitalize Perrysburg as well. One of the things that I know that Casey has actually gotten a lot of feedback about has been trees. Would you like to talk about the trees before we wrap this up?
I would. And you know what? There are two groups that need a shout out that I completely forgot about. The first, I would like to give a huge shout out to Perrysburg Street Tree Commission. They worked very closely with our construction crew to figure out what the best trees, what the best foliage, shrubs would work best for the planter boxes that are going to be going in. You can already see what they look like now over in the Phase 1 area. So over by the library, over by Perry's Landing, and it's going to be the exact same system for Phase 2 as well.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful, especially once the trees that have been planted continue to grow and the shrubs start to bloom more. It's going to be so beautiful to walk past. And then more specifically, on the Street Tree Commission, there is a guy named Dan Ledyard, and he is actually the city's urban forester. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to trees. I will admit I knew next to nothing about trees other than the fact that they grow out of the ground. He has taught me so much about it, just different tree species, which trees thrive where, when it's time to conduct maintenance on your trees. And so he has been very crucial in helping us determine, okay, which trees could we maybe realistically save, or which ones are just goners where it's like you're going to be burning up more time and resources trying to save this tree to the point where it's like it just can't be saved at all. He just has a keen, savvy eye for that kind of stuff. And I know navigating, replacing the old trees that are in Phase 2, going on with new ones, this would be a much more complicated process if we did not have Dan's expertise.
Shout out to Dan. I've never met Dan the Tree Man, but I think I saw a picture of him on Facebook. Is that right? Didn't you take a picture recently?
Yeah, so I did a picture with him because there were some weird issues going on with trees that in Three Meadows Park. But more recently, he's actually been featured in 2 different videos on Facebook. The first, he's communicating some tree maintenance that was going on for World War I, commemorative trees that were planted. And then there was a tree that was removed from kind of close to the same area in Hood Park. And he explained that's actually going to be replaced with an extra special tree. I'm not going to spoil anything, but an extra special tree is going to be going close to the same spot where that one was removed sometime this year. More to come on that. But this is actually the first couple of times I've worked with Dan on social media. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to do so good at it. He totally knocked it out of the park. So
I'll have to watch that.
Can definitely expect to see him more on social media. And he's also got an email, a specific email, urbanforester@perrysburgoh.gov. And that inbox was created for residents to reach out to. So if you have a question about trees, whether it's trees that you see in one of the parks, or maybe it's a tree that's near your backyard, growing in your backyard, Dan is here and he's happy to answer any questions that you've got about it.
Thank you for that special shout out to both the Street Tree Commission and Dan Ledyard. I didn't know about the Street Tree Commission until Marie Dunn had told me about them during a previous interview. And I believe that the city of Perrysburg recruits volunteers for that Street Tree Commission from time to time. Is that correct?
That is correct. And ironically, right now, they are looking for a new member to join the Street Tree Commission. So if anybody that's listening to this within a reasonable time frame of March 9th, I don't know how long they're going to be searching for, but definitely apply. And you know what? If they don't take you that time around, there's always next time. They're always going to be looking for people in the future as well.
Awesome. Thank you for giving that that advertisement. I didn't expect that. So I love when unplanned good things happen. As we start to wrap this up, I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything that any of you would like to say. Let's go around. Zoe, is there anything else you'd like to add Or maybe would you like to talk about what you're most looking forward to when this Revitalize Perrysburg Phase 2 is complete?
I'm looking forward to a lot, actually. I'm looking forward to downtown, like being more accessible. I currently still live at home with my family, and both sets of my grandparents live with us. So they used to be able to come downtown. Now, not so much anymore due to ability reasons. And so this will allow them to be able to enjoy downtown just like everybody else. They won't have to worry about, oh, how do I get my scooter in here? I can't figure it out. So they'll be able to enjoy it. So I'm really excited for that. I'm also excited for these guys to get a break for a little bit so we can focus on, the rest of America 250. And so I'm very grateful that we've had this amazing team. And maybe if we ever need construction or anything in the future, hopefully not, we'll all be able to get back together and partner with the businesses in a positive way because it's gone pretty positive. I know there have been issues with nearby cities with their revitalization projects, and we didn't want to end up that way. And right now, we've heard tons of good feedback that's like, oh, you guys are doing things differently, which is what our goal was. We even went up to the different areas that are under construction or have just finished and realized oh, if we did something like this, maybe it would help the businesses better. Oh, if we did something like this, it would communicate with the citizens better. So it's been an interesting process for me too, because I'm 23. I don't know a lot about construction and whatnot, and I feel like I've gained a lot of knowledge hanging out with Tom every week, and it's been great. So yeah, thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thanks, Zoe. And on to you, Tom.
Well, I look forward to the season being over. It's going to be a busy year for us. We've got the downtown's a huge project for us. But we've also got a couple multi-use paths going on. We've got a ditch project on Fort Mex Road going on. So from a engineering inspection standpoint, we've got our hands full this summer. I do want to throw out that with the phase 1 completion where it's at on the downtown work, we probably tripled the parking on that block by adding pull-in parking on the library side, and then there was no parking on the Perry's Landing side, so that's all extra parking now. And then as you're looking for places to park downtown, we did extend the 2nd Street parking in front of Kazmeyer's 2 years ago. Feel free to use the new spots to get access to the downtown because it's probably going to be easier to walk in than it will be to drive in.
That's a good shout out for the new parking spaces, especially on farmers market days, because those will be available.
Yeah.
I often use the parking lot that's on West 2nd Street. So it's near McGivern Jewelers. And a lot of people don't know about that. So I've just let my secret parking lot out of the bag. Tom, is there a favorite thing that you're looking forward to after this is done? I know you're looking forward to construction season ending, but what maybe one feature are you looking forward to the city using?
It'll be nice to be able to come to market days and walk down a sidewalk that's not 6 foot wide or 5 foot wide, elbow to elbow. Just to have that extra width with the new sidewalk's going to be a big improvement.
Well said. Yes, I know I have to kind of dance around people going, forward and then the opposite direction. And then if there's a dog off to the side and you can't step around them because you'll step on a leash or something, and then there's the vendor, it is kind of crowded on market days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new one there at the library feels like you're walking in a street as wide as it is. So that new sidewalk will be nice.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And on to Casey.
Yeah, for me, my mind just keeps going to not this year, but next year. So just imagine with me, it's a beautiful, sunny June afternoon. It's on a Saturday. You pull in downtown onto Louisiana, that main strip. You don't have to, or at least for me, I'm always like, oh, am I going to find a parking spot in this strip, or am I going to have to go off onto one of the side streets? You manage to find a easy parking spot right by the library, like what Tom was saying, and you're able to walk downtown an enormous sidewalk, at least compared to what we had previously, where you can comfortably, if you have a dog, walk your dog. If you want to bring your children with you and they need a stroller, push a stroller. It's not going to be claustrophobic like we just mentioned. There's going to be beautiful trees that are growing with beautiful shrubs right there alongside in the beautiful brickwork that's been done. And simultaneously, I can take all of that in, but I can also look over at the buildings and still see they haven't changed at all. They're exactly as they were before even phase one started. And so it just kind of makes me happy because it makes Perrysburg really unique. And we already know it's unique in a lot of ways, but more specifically for its revitalization project, it's finding the perfect balance of that modern accessibility and comfort that we would like to see, and blending that with the historic charm that has always existed downtown and still finding ways to pay homage to that. So I'm so excited. I mean, I can't wait until, obviously come November this year to see what it looks like. But when we finally get to enjoy that final product, it's all finished and done with, everybody is going to be so much happier, I think, and ultimately glad see it as a positive change that happened.
I'm looking forward to seeing smiling faces. And as construction ends and the barrels get moved out and everything that's new is in place, a lot of us have short memories about that pain. So I'm looking forward to forgetting all about the pain of the construction. I know you all have worked very hard to make this happen, so I can't wait to see it come together. Thank you all. Thanks for being here on the Perrysburg Podcast. Thanks again to Zoe, Tom, and Casey for being on the podcast today. Remember, we're all in this together. Businesses, residents, visitors, construction crews, and we're going to get through this. If you would like to avoid surprises or delays, look at the websites and the social media channels that were mentioned today. Plan ahead if you can. We are going to have an excellent revitalized downtown Perrysburg come the end of the year. Thank you very much for listening to episode 139 of the Perrysburg Podcast. The show notes are on perrysburgpodcast.com. In the show notes, you'll find the names and titles of today's guests, Zoe, Tom, and Casey, the city's website and social media links, Revitalize Perrysburg's website and social media links, a link to the Perrysburg Chamber of Commerce, the Way Public Library, and Visit Perrysburg. Lots of links today. Everything you need is on perrysburgpodcast.com. If you know someone who would like today's episode, please share it with them. And if you like this podcast, come on back. We've got a lot more coming up in 2026. Subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.